This video is going to show how to import customer art, how to get outline text so we don't have to worry about fonts, how to extract that sign, how to add a cut path and bleed to that sign. So first thing, I need to get my file imported. So I'm going to grab the file and drop it at the top up here. It'll ask me if I want to open just one or open all. Go ahead and open all. And we're just going to do this with one sign. We'll use the recycle rule sign as an example. This X here means that this is a linked file. It's not embedded. If you want to try to embed it, you can do that, but you see a lot of the times you'll have a error because you don't have the fonts. So easy way to get around that is to select the file, go to Object, Flatten Transparency, and here there's an option to convert all text to outlines. So hit OK, and now you'll see that it didn't throw any errors because the text and everything is just outlined the way it was on the sign, so you don't have to worry about the fonts changing the look of the sign. Also now elements are selectable, so we can go ahead and extract the sign. So with the direct selection tool and holding Alt, I'm going to draw a marquee around the sign, and because I'm holding Alt, everything that gets caught in my marquee, it will select every part of that element. So I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to go into a new working file here. I'm going to paste that art back in here, and you can see it pasted in with all the individual layers, so you want to just go ahead and group those back together to make it easy to work with. I'm just going to move it onto my print layer so that it's nice and clean. Get rid of this. Alright, so now we need to clean up this sign. All the measurements on the outside, the lines that show the size of the sign, everything like that need to be removed. This company puts black outlines around the edge of their sign. I typically recommend against using those for your cut paths because you'll end up running into some weird situations sometimes where they use a filled path instead of a stroke or something along those lines, and then it'll screw you up. So it's better just to know how to do it on your own. So I'm going to show how to do that. So we're just going to go ahead and get rid of that outside black line there because it's not needed. Looks like they have another one down here. Again, not needed. And then this one here, not needed. And the way that you can tell that these are not needed is that if you look at their art in the color key over here, and this is a bad example because they don't have all the colors listed out, but in the color key there would not be anything that says black. So we're just going to go off of experience, knowing that this is how this company handles these signs, and you can see they do it on all their signs here, that black outline. And I'm just going to say that that black outline is not needed. So to create a cut path, this is back in the working file again. To create a cut path, what we're going to do is we're going to select the outside perimeter vector path that goes all the way around the sign, and this is going to be several different elements. So for this top piece right here, and again we're using the direct select tool, which is the white arrow with the little plus sign, by holding down Alt, which will select all the parts. So if I select this far right line right here, it'll select all the four corners and all four lines of the shape. Now holding down Alt and Shift, I'm going to select this white line also, which now adds that to my selection, and again it will encompass all parts of that shape. I'm going to do it also for this gray right here. Now we have all three of those, and then I'm going to do it for this line right here, and then do this clipping path here again. So now we have the outside perimeter of the sign collected in vectors. We're going to copy that. Before we paste it, we need to get out of isolation mode. And now I'm going to go ahead and paste it in place. And it looks like one of these paths was unfilled. This is why you can still see the texture down here. But if you just select any random color, I had the stroke selected. Let me try that again with the fill selected. So if you select any random color, it will fill in everything with the same color, and then you can use Pathfinder here to merge those into a single shape. And then if we switch the fill and the stroke, now we have a cut path. I'm going to go ahead and set that cut path to the correct cut color. And now we can see kind of where the bounds of the sign are going to be when we're done with it. The sign needs to be scaled before we move on any further, otherwise the bleeds will be set to the wrong scale. So this is a 18 by 24 sign. I'm going to go ahead and scale it here. And you can see that this is very close to the 18 by 24 that's requested for this sign. So this is fine to use for moving forward. Looks like somehow I managed to get the cut path pasted in here twice. So I'm just going to get rid of one of these. We only need one of those. Alright, so now that we have the cut path created, we've got the sign scaled, we've got all the black lines removed. I'm going to take this cut path, put it on the correct layer, and then we need to have another copy of the cut path to work with. Oh, it looks like I doubled the sign too. Get rid of one of those. So we need to have another copy of the cut path to work with to create the bleeds. So copy that path under the art, and then usually a good idea to just go ahead and turn off the visibility for the actual cut path so we don't risk actually messing with it. Select that path and then use offset path to create a compound path with the other path. So now you want to select both the path that's the same size as the cut path and then the offset path version of that, and then make a compound path, which on PC is just Command 8. And then we're going to switch that from strokes to fills so that we can see the space that we're working in. Now to get this set up for clipping masks and everything like that, there's a couple different ways that you can handle this. You can just draw it out with the pen tool, or you can use lines to split these into shapes. The wood grain here is going to need to be in the art and in the bleed. If we just cut this compound path right here, that this space would not be included. So I'm just going to draw it in for this one using the compound path as a guide. So get my pen tool, start here, go to there, go to there, and then this is a 45-degree angle down. Come over here, 45-degree angle back up, and now we have a path for the clipping mask for the wood grain. Do the same thing here for this gray color. So draw there, there, here, 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 and here. Now we've got a path for that gray, and then I'm gonna draw in another path here again for the wood grain. So there, 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 and now we've got a clipping path for that wood grain. And this is just for the bleeds, which is going to be under the art, but because these are above the art, that's why it kind of looks a little bit funny right there. We don't really need this compound path anymore, so we get rid of that. And now you can direct select that shape, which is under the art, and then use the eyedropper tool to get the color for the bleed. And then we need to use this shape as a clipping mask for the high quality wood grain. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that into this file. Go ahead and embed it. It doesn't matter that the fonts are not going to come across right because I'm only using this for this wood grain. So I'm copy this out of here. And we can select the bleed to see how big it really needs to be. And it looks like the bleed for this one just needs to be 17.6 basically, so I'm just going to increase the size of that to be big enough for the bleed. Then use a key anchor and my alignment tools to get that into position and send it to the back. And then we're going to clip that in. And what I just did is I deleted the wood grain out of the art because we don't really need to have doubles, and the wood grain that was in there was a lower quality anyway. So I deleted the wood grain, and then you could see that this gray path was up there, so I just brought that down so it doesn't interfere with the bleed. And now I'm going to go down here and repeat the process down here. So I'm going to copy this, send it to the back, use the key anchor with the bleed path that I made. Then I use the alignment tools to get it into position, and then make a clipping mask out of it. And then again, you can see there's a low quality version of the wood grain here. We don't want that showing, so I'm just going to delete that so that all we've got is the high quality version of the wood grain. And this time we didn't have to do anything with any of the other shapes, it just worked the way it was supposed to work. So now if I go ahead and turn back on my cut path, you can see that the bleed goes 1/4 inch past the edge of the cut. It's high quality. You have perfect 45-degree angles when two colors meet, and all the spots and all the bleeds are set up properly. So that's about the best way I know how to explain how to set up the bleeds for this sign. If you have a sign that is just one solid color, then bleeding is much easier. All you gotta do is offset the path. That's easy. But because we were dealing with wood grain in this one and different colors going along the edges coming together, this takes a little bit extra effort. So that's how you put that together. Alright, so I want to show also what the compound path is really good for, and that's when you have a sign that doesn't really have any textures that you have to worry about clipping in. So if you just have solid colors that go to the edge of the sign, like this gray, the white, and this other gray, then it might be easier to make the compound path and separate the compound path. So I'm going to show you how that's done. I'm going to end up using the layers panel and the Pathfinder panel, so I'm going to show these both real quick. Gonna need a layer for my cut path, which is up here now. Let's go ahead and get it named the correct thing. Alright, so to do this, like I was explaining before, I'm just gonna go through the process of making the compound path again. I need to copy the cut path to do this. Turn off visibility for the cut path so I don't mess with the wrong thing. Then I'm going to use that path with offset path by 1/4 inch. Now I've got the path that's the same size as the outside edge of the sign, and I've got the path that's 1/4 inch out from that. Using Control 8 on PC, make my compound path, and then I swap the print and the fill. So now we have a 1/4 inch compound path that goes all around the whole edge of the sign. And this is going to differ in the last process. So instead of using the pen tool to draw out where I want the clipping mask to be, I'm going to use the line tool to just split up this compound path. So get the line tool, and then at every place where a color changes to a different color, I need the bleed to change. So to do that with the line tool, I'm just going to go in here and draw lines, and sometimes it helps for it to go a little bit beyond the compound path, otherwise it can do weird things with the Pathfinder. So I'm going to go ahead and draw lines at every intersection of color here, and there should be 8 total. If you hold down shift while you're drawing your line, oops, Alright, anyways, what I was trying to say is if you hold down shift while drawing your line, it'll keep it at 45-degree angles. So it's usually a good idea to do that while you're drawing these out, because you want these cuts to be at 45. So there was my fourth one, and I need to do the same thing on this side. Alright, so I need to go back in here and draw out the lines for this side also. So again, using my line tool, go in here. Alright, there we go. Now I have the 8 lines and the compound path overlaid, and I can use the Pathfinder here to divide it into different shapes. And when you use Pathfinder, because there's it's closed around it, it'll end up creating extra path down here that's just unfilled. You don't really need this one, so I'm going to delete that. So now we have individual shapes for each outside color here, as you can see. So now I can go around using the direct select tool, select the color, and then use the eyedropper tool to set all the outside colors to what they need to be. And I'm just going back and forth. Oops, wrong one. Going back and forth between A to use the direct select tool and using I to get the eyedropper. And of course you could do multiple at one time also. Alright, so if you had just solid colors that could go to the edge of the sign, that's one way of going about setting up your bleeds. And you can see that all the bleeds are set correctly. They've got the right angles in there, they've got the right colors set and all that type of stuff. So that's how you would set it up if you were just splitting up a compound path.